Hello, and welcome to Own Your Retirement. My name is Albert Lalonde from Kaizen Financial. If you'd like more information about what you hear during our show today, give us a call at 586-752-7008 or visit us online at www.kaizenfinancialgroup.com. That's Kaizen, Kaizen. And while on my website, please click on the podcast page to check out our past shows and to subscribe to our program on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Amazon Music. Okay, so tariffs continue to dominate the financial news as countries reciprocate and experts seek to determine what comes next. And that tariff uncertainty continues to roil the market. Now, naturally, concerns about tariffs lead to worry about rising inflation and a potential recession. And when you're retired, or let's say nearly there, inflation and recessions are probably two of the last words you want to hear. So, during today's show, we're going to consider some potential steps you may want to take to buttress your assets against, let's say, a potential recession. But before we break down our current financial chaos, let me introduce my co host, Tony Shore, who has nerves of steel even during times of market volatility. What's going on, Tony? How we doing, buddy?
Well, I appreciate that. Great
Uh,
intro, but you know, um, I think I have nerves of steel just because I know to rely on my financial strategy and plan
there you
and stay
go.
on course. And of course, work with a trusted financial services professional. And Albert, you've helped so many people in our community with just this. And I think this is a great topic because, people who have stuck with it have not only done okay, but they've even come out ahead
Yes.
during times like 2008 and the 2020 COVID crisis. You need to have a plan. You need to work with a financial professional. And I think that's a great way to stay on course. And this is a timely topic, as we know. We've seen some market
Yes.
volatility this year, and I don't think we're done with the volatility,
No.
but nobody has a crystal ball, right?
Correct, correct. If
Yeah.
anything, with this delay, we're just going to see it again in here in a couple months, but maybe not as bad, but we'll see. But let's refer to a USA Today story titled, "Is the US going into a recession? 10 tips for navigating a choppy economy." Now, the first recommendation is to pay off or pay down your credit cards and other sources of high interest debt. Now, let's talk about that move. It just makes sense. No debate, no footnotes. If you're carrying credit card debt, knocking the balance down is one of the smartest moves you can make, regardless if there's a recession or not coming. Now, it's an instant return on your money when you think about it that way. You save on interest, you sleep better at night, and you take control, I should say, back control of your cash flow. Now, isn't this just isn't just theory. The article shares a bank rate survey showing that 40% of cardholders are still carrying a balance. That's nearly half. And once that balance starts to grow, it becomes harder to kill off. In fact, 71% of folks with debt said they hope to pay it off not soon, but within 5 years. 5 years. Think about that for something that's draining your finances every single month. Now, I don't say that to guilt anyone. I say it to light a fire because this is one of those rare opportunities where taking action today can deliver financial peace of mind tomorrow. And if that's not a solid investment, well, then I don't know what is, Tony.
Well, yeah. And there can be a palpable source or sense of relief
Hmm.
once you get out from underneath a big debt, right? A big debt source, get rid of that. It feels so good. You'll sleep better at night. It'll relieve stress. You'll live longer. It'll improve your health.
Yes, for
Having
sure.
debt has been shown to add stress, which can affect your health. There are so many reasons to get that done. And there's lots of resources out there to help with that. And I know you've helped
Yes.
people with that. So that's
Yep.
important.
Definitely, I agree with that. That is the number one, first, I would say, goal for everybody.
Sure.
Take care of it. Now,
Yeah.
next, you should try and make purchases on things that, well, might get marked up as new tariffs are implemented. Now, look, I know I just said paying down debt is one of the smartest financial moves you can make, and I stand by that. But here's the deal: sometimes the math shifts, especially when tariffs starts creeping in and the prices are about to jump. This isn't about impulse shopping. This is about strategic timing. If you know you're going to need certain items soon, maybe it's toddler clothes or new jeans, that soccer ball for a kid's birthday, or even a bigger ticket item like a vehicle. It might actually make more sense to buy now before those tariffs hikes roll in. Now, here's what we're seeing. Those $24 toddler sets from, let's say, Cambodia could climb to $36. A pair of, let's say, Egyptian made jeans might go from $40 to $44. A soccer ball from Pakistan, $18 today, well, over $23 tomorrow. And a 10% tariff, let's say, on your Brazilian coffee. Wow, that's your morning ritual now getting a price bump every day. Now, let's talk about bigger fish. That SUV that I just said, the vehicle you've been eyeing from Mexico. It's sitting at just more than $31,000 right now. But with the new 25% tariffs, you're looking at more than $39,000. That's not pocket change. That's strategy. So, an automotive expert quoted in the article predicts across the board increases and adds that every prices on cars and trucks made in the United States might rise, let's say, by around $3,000 because they generally include foreign made parts, Tony.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and there you go. And in talking with family and friends out there, rising auto prices are a concern with most people I talk to, because there are times when you have to buy new wheels. Your vehicle is just it's not going to carry you much further, or you've started to put a lot of money into it. So it's not always a choice. Sometimes you have to do it whether you really want to or not.
Right. Well, now the next thing you should be cautious about, is after I just said a big ticket item, is big purchases that you don't really need. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
So
good point.
let's be real. When the economy starts to wobble, retailers don't sit still. They put out all the stops, sales promos, limited time only deals, all designed to get you to spend now, not later. And hey, some of those offers might actually be worth considering. But here's the thing, just because something's on sale doesn't mean it's in your best interest. That's why a lot of financial service professionals recommend what I call the cooling off clause. You see something shiny? Give it a week, maybe 10 days. Sit with it. If you still want it, really want it, then we can talk. Even better, loop in someone who's not afraid to call your bluff. Let's say a spouse, a buddy, your financially savvy cousin, someone who's going to say, do you really need that $1,200 espresso machine when you don't even drink coffee at home? So, big purchases are like big emotions, best handled with a little space and a lot of clarity. Because your future self isn't going to remember the flash sale. You're going to remember whether you stayed in control, stuck to your plan, and made decisions from a place of power, not pressure. And that's how you build wealth with intention. And that's how you evolve, Tony.
Yeah, there you go. And we all want to evolve with our plans and with our wealth. So let's keep going with this conversation. But first, I want to take this moment to let our listeners know how they can get a hold of you to set up a no charge, no obligation consultation if they have questions, they want to get their own plan in place. How do they do that?
Yes, folks, you can visit my website at www.kaizenfinancialgroup.com. That's Kaizen, Kaizen, or call my office at 586-752-7008 and discuss how we can answer your questions and address your concerns about a possible recession, your retirement strategy, or any other parts of your financial future.
All right. Well, that sounds great. And this has been a good discussion. You've been talking about what we can do to protect ourselves if current tariffs or market volatility would happen to lead to a recession, or the bear market would come into full effect and market volatility is bad. So, you touched on, hey, get your debt paid down, especially your credit cards or other big sources of debt. Don't make purchases on big items that you don't need necessarily. I think these are great tips. What's next?
Well, Let's stick with the USA Today article titled, Is the US Going into Recession? 10 Tips for Navigating a Choppy Economy. It's now talking about aiming down to pay your highest cost debt first. All right. So let's talk about the kind of debt that's not just dragging you down, it's draining your future. So if you're carrying anything with, let's say, a double digit interest rate, it should be in your financial crosshairs. I'm not just talking about credit cards here, Tony. I'm talking about payday loans and auto title loans. So sneaky high interest traps that look like lifelines, but end up costing you a fortune. Now, here's the truth. Most people don't hear until it's too late. The average credit card right now is around 22% in interest rates. And those payday or auto title loans, well, they can make that look like a bargain. We're talking much higher than that 22% credit card average. And that's not borrowing. That's more like a financial quicksand. So, what do financial services professionals say? Well, simple. Attack the highest interest debt first. Laser focus attack. Every spare dollar, every little windfall, throw it at the worst offender. Minimums and everything else. Aggression on the one that's costing you the most. Why? Because paying off that kind of debt isn't just about numbers. It can also be about freedom. You likely don't need a $7 latte when payday loan interest is breathing down your neck. So debt can feel like a weight, but if you've got more power than you think, get clear, get focused, and start swinging. That's how real progress is made, Tony.
Wow. Well, I like that. I like that. Get clear, get focused, and start
Yes.
swinging, right? Come up with a strategy to pay down your debt as quickly as possible. And that's a great reason to meet with somebody like yourself.
Yes. And here's another tip. Building or adding to an emergency fund is another way you give yourself some protection during, let's say, a recession. Now, let's have a real talk about something financial service professionals have been preaching for decades, and yet somehow it still often gets pushed to the back burner, your emergency funds. Now, I get it. When people hear 6 to 12 months of expenses, they check out. Sounds great in theory until you look at your paycheck, your bills, and your grocery receipt and think, yeah, right. But here's the truth. Even having $1,000 set aside can be a game changer. Why? Because when life hits you with surprises, your car, let's say, breaks down, your kids break an arm, or the furnace dies in January. You're not scrambling for a high interest credit card to bail you out. In fact, Bank Rate says 47% of folks carrying credit card debt ended up there because of emergencies, not because they're out shopping for shoes, but because life happened and they didn't have a cushion. So, no, you don't need to save a year's salary overnight, but you should start little by little. Every dollar you put into that emergency stash is one less dollar you're borrowing with interest later. And here's one more thing. Don't let your emergency fund just sit there doing nothing. In fact, the article actually says to park it somewhere that earns at least maybe 4% or 3.5%. A high yield savings account is a great recommendation, or go to a credit union, a money market fund, something safe, something liquid, but still working for you. And this isn't just about money, it's about increased confidence. And that's priceless, Tony.
Yeah, it is. And building an emergency fund can seem daunting or challenging, but once you have the cash to handle something like an unexpected appliance repair or car breakdown, you'll breathe a sigh of relief. I mean, when I first heard, wow, you need 6 months of living expenses. That's what's recommended. My wife and I are like, 6 months? We don't have that in our savings account. But then you start picking away and putting more money in there, and it'll add up, and you'll get there.
Yeah, no, definitely,
Yeah,
definitely. But that is one of the biggest things that I believe cash is still king.
it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, during a recession, you should also be cautious about taking withdrawals from a retirement account. Let's say things get tight, really tight, and the market's rocky, bills are piling up, and that 401k or IRA starts looking like a tempting safety net. But before you even think about tapping your retirement accounts, pump that brake, please. Why? Because pulling money out of your IRA or 401k early can do more damage than you may think. First off, if the market's down, you're not just withdrawing, you're locking in losses. You're selling low, and that's the opposite of what smart investing is all about. Then there's the tax hit. Most Early withdrawals come with a regular income tax, plus, let's say, a 10% penalty if you're under 59 and a half. Now, that's a double punch, and it's your future that pays the price. Now, if let's say you're really in a bind and your employer allows it, consider this a 401k loan. You're borrowing from yourself. The interest rate is usually low. You don't have to jump through credit checks. And the best part, the interest goes back to you, not a bank. If things turn around faster than expected, you can even pay it off early. And look, even your employer offers a match on retirement contributions. Do whatever you can to keep contributing at least up to that match. Remember, that's free money, right? Free money. Don't leave it on the table unless you absolutely have to. But bottom line, your retirement account is a long game. So use it wisely, borrow if you must, but don't burn your future just to put out a short term fire.
Yeah. Yeah, that's never a good idea. And it's understandable when things get tight. It's tempting to dip into those retirement accounts, but doing so is really going to cost you in the long run. And you could really end up making a costly mistake or derailing your retirement. So don't touch those accounts.
Yes.
Find another way to make it happen.
You got it. You
Yeah.
got it.
Well,
So,
I think that's great. We should probably let our listeners know how they can get a hold of you. I know you're offering a no charge, no obligation consultation, right?
yes, folks, if you need to give me a call at 586-752-7008 or visit my website at www.kaizenfinancialgroup.com. That's Kaizen, Kaizen. And if you've got questions or if you have concerns about your strategy during a recession, please give us a call.
All right. Well, I think we have time for one more thing to
What?
know about recessions. What's next?
Well, let's stick with that same USA Today article. Is the US going into recession? 10 tips for navigating a choppy economy. It now talks about improving or highlighting your workplace skills. See, if a recession rolls in, and let's be honest, it's always a possibility, millions of folks could find themselves out of a job or maybe itching for something more stable. But here's the thing, the best time to plant seeds isn't when you're hungry, it's before the storm even hits. Now is the moment to sharpen the edge, or your edge, I should say. That might mean diving into an online course, picking up new skills like accounting basics or digital tools, or checking out your local community college. It doesn't have to be a full blown degree, just something that keeps your toolkit full and your confidence high. Now, think about joining, let's say, a professional group in your industry. Not only can you meet the kind of people who say, hey, we're hiring, but it's also a great way to stay current and keep your fingers on the pulse. Now, Indeed.com has a few solid reminders too. Connect with the mentor, get some honest feedback from folks who know your work, and take a peek at job listings for roles you love to land. Then ask yourself, what skills am I missing?
Yeah, exactly. Keep the resume current and network. I think, my wife works in this field. She's a director of recruiting,
Mm-hmm.
and she's worked in staffing and recruiting for her professional life, and has moved up the ranks there and has helped so many people find jobs. And she's always been able to move up and find the best jobs in her field, and encouraged our kids and myself to do that. And it's all about networking.
Yep.
And that is so important. But a great show today, a lot of great tips
Yes.
for beating that recession, market volatility, and just in general, recession or not, whether we get there or not, and hopefully not.
Yes.
But we do know the market is going to have ups and it's going to have downs. And usually the ups are bigger and the downs aren't as bad. But when we're due, we're due. So it could happen. And that's why you need to be prepared. And the way to be prepared, right, is to have a written plan in place for your finances, for your retirement funds, for your budget and debt. And to do that, all you need to do is pick up the phone and give Albert a call. Albert, how can our listeners get a hold of you? One more time.
Yes, folks, give us a call at 586-752-7008 or visit us on our website at www.kaizenfinancialgroup.com. That's Kaizen. And we can discuss how we can answer your questions, address your concerns about possible recessions, your retirement strategy, or any other parts of your retirement future. Remember, it's our goal to help you prepare for your retirement so you can own your retirement.
There you go. And listeners, that does it for today's episode of the Own Your Retirement podcast with our host, Albert Lalonde.
Take care, everyone.